Hi everyone, I'm Lisa Curcio and welcome to Lisa's Stamp Studio. Some of you have been telling me I am not ready for fall, I am not ready for holiday cards, and I am not ready for Halloween. I got you covered today, but I'm using a product in the brand new holiday catalog in an entirely different way that's none of those things. It's going to teach you a technique on watercolor paper that is literally effortless and you can't make a mistake. I'm using the Ghoulish Grunge stamp set to teach you a technique using watercoloring and a drip method. It's really simple and it's so quick that you're going to be able to make lots of cards at once. Head over to my blog after the video and check out the brand new button on the side that says Live with Lisa. You're not going to want to miss the next episode. Let's get over to the table and let's start creating this. I truly don't think you can appreciate how cool this is until you can see it up close. And you're going to be surprised at how easy this is to mess up, which is what we're actually going to do. You're going to need a piece of watercolor paper, and I'm using 4 inches by 4 inches. And you're going to need a spritzer, and I put water in this one, and I do label them because I make some with different re-inkers for colors. And make sure it's filled up because you're going to need quite a bit. I'm using 3 ink colors on my card. I'm using Melon Mambo, Daffodil Delight, and Tempting Turquoise. Keep in mind if you choose different colors, remember that sometimes when they bleed together, they'll make another color. You're also going to need your black Stays-On ink pad. This is a solvent-based ink. It will be a bit grainy on your paper when you stamp it because of the watercolor paper, but it's going to hold up beautifully under the wetness that we're going to create here for this technique. I'm going to get my first ink pad ready. That's the Daffodil Delight. And I'm using this drip stamp, and it's from a brand new stamp set called Ghoulish Grunge. Now, when I saw it, I was like, ew. I think it was intended for like gooey, oozy stuff, but I saw other possibilities with that, and I thought, okay, I'm going to try something different. The rest of these are fabulous, even the spider web. Wouldn't this be great on over-the-hill birthday cards? So don't overlook this. This piece here, I think, would be fantastic for some of our seaside scapes. And of course, you know, the chicken wire is just a trademark of my blog image. I just love that French country kind of look, and you can't ever go wrong with a brick wall. Really fun to just stamp a greeting over the top. So Ghoulish Grunge is in the holiday catalog. So I've got my ink pad ready. I've got my stamp ready. Now we've got to get the paper ready. Make sure you have something underneath your work surface to protect it because it's going to get wet. The hole on these spritzers is very, very tiny. You see how tiny? You're going to want to make sure that it's pointing in the right direction when you spray, because otherwise if it's not, you're going to be wearing it or something else on your work surface will be. So I'm going to move the pad out of the way just in case, and I'm going to spritz my paper where I'm going to stamp that. I'm going to ink it up. I'm going to turn it upside down, and I'm going to stamp it here off to the side. Now because the paper is really wet, I am just going to turn it upside down and let it bleed a little bit. And you're going to see that it's going to start to run. That's what we want. Now, do you see down here how I missed this? I'm actually kind of glad I did it, and I'm going to show you how to fix that. Don't panic that I put this back on top of the pad, because remember, these are dye-based pads. You'll take your aqua painter and you'll pick up some ink from the lid, and you're just going to simply fill this in. You don't even need to be neat about it, okay? So if you have a little area that needs a little help, that's all you have to do. Make sure that you squeeze out the brush over your Stampin' Scrub or on a paper towel so that it runs clear before you put it into a different color. If you don't know how to get it in here, let me show you. You're going to turn it upside down. You're going to give it a good squeeze. We made them flexible so that it'll put ink inside the lid, and that's where you're going to watercolor from. You don't ever want to pick up color from here with the aqua painter. So now that's done a little bit of running. I'm going to clean off my stamp on the Stampin' Scrub, which happens to be off camera because I only have so much room. Sorry. Next, I'm going to use my Tempting Turquoise ink. And I am going to spritz again. I know you're probably thinking, well, that's going to continue to run. Yep, that's what I want. So if I get a little bit on there, it's totally fine. Same stamp. I'm going to ink it up. And I'm going to come down a little bit further this time, and I'm going to stamp. Can you see how it's already bleeding? All right, I'm going to turn it upside down, and I'm going to let that ink just run off the paper. This is really fun. You know what's great about this too? You can do a whole bunch of these at once and just line them up. Let them run and then let them dry. Okay, so I'm going to tap that off, and I'm going to clean it off on my Stampin' Scrub one more time. And I'm going to switch over now to Melon Mambo. Now my paper is pretty wet over here, but I want to make sure that it's wet at the bottom. So I'm going to hold this and I'm going to give it a little spritz down there just to make sure, because I do want it to run. That's the whole point. And then I'm going to stamp this down here at the bottom. Oh yeah, that's going to be nice. And turning it upside down again. And I'm going to let that run. I'm going to clean this off while it's doing that. Now, what if it's not running enough? You can add more water. So I'm going to add a little bit more water here. And I'm going to just let it drip some more. And again, I'm turning it upside down. Now, you do see how I've got some misses here. I'm going to take my aqua painter. I'm going to see if there's enough ink on there to actually move that around. Yep, I think there is. Now, remember, you're going to want to clean this off before you go over to the next color. So I'll make sure that's clean. Yep, then I'm going to bring down that turquoise a little bit. There we go. Now, of course, the Mambo and the turquoise together will make a really cool shade of purple, so I'm not really worried if it blends at all. Now, if you want more, keep spraying. Look. And again, hold it upside down and just let it drip. Now, I'm trying to turn it around this way so you can see it a little bit better because I know it's upside down, but isn't that neat? Neat, neat stuff. Now you're thinking, okay, great. Now, how long does that take to dry? Surprisingly, not as long as I thought. So I'm going to cap this, set this aside. I have a piece of paper towel here, and I actually just laid it on top and I just blotted it. And that's going to soak up some of the ink, and if it moves it around, totally fine. I'm going to change this and then blot again here at the bottom. So now that I have my card, I'm just going to wipe this up a little bit. You know, it'll get on the back, but we don't care about that. All right, so now we have our watercolored kind of paint drips. Don't you love this? Here's the great part. You can decide whether you want your text here or here. The orientation can go any way that you'd like. This does need to be fairly dry before you stamp your greeting. So I'm going to give this a couple more minutes, and while it's doing that, I'm going to tell you where I chose my greeting from. This is the stamp set One Big Meaning. It is a bunch of thank you sentiments. I really, really like it. And I like it because the images are big and bold. You'll see here on this one, I used this sentiment. But for the video, I thought it'd be fun to change it up. And I've chosen this one. You are too kind. Thank you. You're looking for a greeting with a bold, long text. I think it's going to stand out better. I tried one earlier that was more of a script, and it really kind of got lost in the color even when I was using black. Now this isn't quite dry yet, so what you could do is you could take your heating tool and give it a good pass with some heat to kind of speed up the process. But just for the sake of the video, I'm going to just try this anyways because you see how it's done. Black StazOn, again, solvent-based ink. So you're going to want to not use this on photopolymer. This is a regular clear mount stamp. It's well inked, my stamp, so I wanted to make sure that you know that. You want to make sure your stamp is well inked. You don't want it to be dry. I'm checking just to see if I got coverage on there, and it looks like I do. And then I'm going to come down here at the bottom, and I'm going to stamp my sentiment. Firm, even pressure. And I'm going to lift. Yep, looks really good. See, even that damp paper didn't affect the solvent-based ink because they're two different mediums. You don't have to worry about them bleeding together. Now, important about StazOn that you clean your stamp right away. Again, I'm off camera with my Stampin' Scrub, which is one side wet and one side dry. The other thing you're going to want to use is StazOn Cleaner. Now, StazOn Cleaner is meant specifically for solvent-based inks. It has a little dauber built in on the top. You're going to rub it across the stamp. Now you can do this whether the stamp is wet or dry, but I do clean off the first layer of ink. And then I'm going to put this back on my Stampin' Scrub and wet and dry. I decided to move this in the camera view for you so that you can actually see what I'm doing. Okay, so it's wet. I've got the majority of ink off. I'm running the dauber of the StazOn Cleaner over the top, and I'm rubbing on my Stampin' Scrub to clean it, and then this side is for drying. It's kind of like doing the dishes. I actually put green nail polish up here on my wet side because, I don't know, if I'm stamping with friends, they're always touching it to see which side is wet because it's really hard to see the raindrop here and the sun image here, which represents the wet and dry. Now, I have used the stamp in white ink before, and it will leave a residue, but it doesn't affect its performance, as you can tell. Okay, so my card looks good. Then I cut a piece of Whisper white cardstock, and this measures 4 1/4 by 8 1/2. And I cut it down a little bit smaller because I wanted this to fit real simply on a frame. Now it does fit in a standard envelope. There'll be a little bit longer than you need, but it fits. That's the good news. On the back, I chose to use dimensionals. Now I'm going to move this out of the way because I don't want any ink that might be wet transferring to the front of my card. And I'm going to put a dimensional in each of the 4 corners. And I'm going to put 1 or 2 in the center because I want to make sure that this doesn't bow when it gets mailed. Remember, my mom is a recipient of my cards and she is a great critic. So she's always telling me you need more of those puffy things. Yeah, and I take great credence to that advice. So here we go. I'm taking off those paper backings. And then I'm just going to center this on the white card base. Really, really, really simple. You know, I typically don't like a card without an embellishment because that's just me, but it didn't need anything else. It really didn't. And just think of how many of these you can make at one time. So here was my original one. Here's the one we did together today. It's a great technique and it's lots of fun. And guess what? You cannot mess it up. And no two are going to be exactly alike. Remember, still photographs and these cutting dimensions are over on my blog. The link is here on the video at the end. And please remember to check out my online classes tab. I've got some fun stuff for you there. And I look forward to seeing you again next time, everyone. Have a great day.